All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming to our open house where we're going to talk about our traffic impact fee program, the projects that we're proposing to include in the traffic impact fee program, which culminates in an update on our Main Street project, because that's one of the projects that's in our traffic impact fee proposal. With me here tonight is John Merrick, our Mountlake Terrace city traffic engineer. And we have Chithra, one of our consultants from Fear and Peers, who is helping us explain how our calculations for traffic impact fees are different than what they were for those that were part of the process back in 2016, I think it was. So. We're going to go through, once we go through the projects that we're funding by the traffic impact fee and the mechanics for such a program, John's going to come up here and explain the different projects that we are considering. There's going to be an opportunity for people who want to propose additional projects besides the ones that we're considering. And we want to make sure that we have opportunity for people to add to the project list if there's something that we're missing. We are doing our best to understand which projects are missing links and needed for our different transportation elements. But we can't be out there all the time, so we really value the input we get from our residents. And then lastly, the last project on our proposed list is the Main Street, which has been on our project list for many years. And we're going to talk about what's changed with our Main Street proposal because we didn't get our federal funding again. And so we're trying to downscope the project a little bit to be a little more competitive for funds that we've applied for. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Chithra.
Thank you, Rich. Good evening, everyone. So I'm Chithra, and I work with Fear and Peers, and I'm here to kind of give a background on impact fee, transportation impact fee specifically, and sort of walk you through like how do we determine the cost and things like that. So let's talk about a little bit of background on impact fee. So what is an impact fee? It is a one-time charge paid by a new development to contribute to the infrastructure that is needed to support that growth. And why are we doing this, or what is a legal authority? So this impact fee program is authorized by the 1990 Growth Management Act as a funding source for any transportation improvements. So the transportation impact fee can be used for funding capacity-related transportation system. So when we say capacity-related, it basically means any projects that gives you more space to move around and things like that. But what it cannot be used are for those projects that are not serving a new growth or sort of like that existing deficiency. So in Washington, we have 4 types of impact fees that are authorized: the fire, the park impact fee, school, and transportation impact fee. So we are specifically going to look at the transportation impact fee tonight. The transportation impact fee is used to fund different types of projects, including the streets and roads, the intersection and signal upgrades, bike and pedestrian facilities, and any construction projects. So previously, we have been using this impact fee to fund vehicle-related projects mostly. But now, the key change for this impact fee program is that we can use it to fund multimodal projects, such as the bike and pet facilities, to name a few. So as Rich mentioned, the city of Mountlake Terrace updated its impact fee in 2016. And the city is kind of updated periodically. And why do we need to do that? So there are several reasons, and one of the main reasons is that to ensure that the fee reflects the current and the future growth needs. And on top of that, Mountlake Terrace has recently updated its comprehensive plan, which includes a transportation element with all the recent projects. So it sort of aligns with the updated city plans and policies. And finally, and more importantly, to support a safer, more accessible multimodal transportation system. So how do we come up with a rate? How does it work? What is the fee program mechanics? So what we do is that we have a list of projects that is already in the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. We take that pool of projects, we divide them into capacity projects and safety or maintenance related or any other projects. So impact fee specifically funds those that are capacity related projects. And when I say capacity project, as I mentioned, it is like, an additional checkout lane in a grocery store that kind of serves more number of people that comes into that place. It is something similar to that. So we have those kind of projects, and we evaluate those capacity projects and see what portion of the project is due to the new growth. Let's say we have a big transportation project that has like intersection, bike facility, pedestrian facility, but not all projects will be attributed to impact fee. Only those projects or those portion of that project that corresponds to or is due to a new development. So that is a cost that is attributed to impact fee, and then we divide it by the new trip that is generated in future in Mountlake Terrace to finally get the cost per trip allocated as an impact fee. So that is basically how we reach to a particular value of impact fee. And the rate study might show a maximum value, but city may charge less depending on how the project or what the development is. So we could say that the fee schedule finally would show the cost per unit of the development that needs to be charged during the whole permitting process for the development. I think now I would shift to John to kind of explain more about the program. Thank you.
Hi, I'm John Merrick. I'm the city traffic engineer. And I'll talk a little bit about how we collect these fees. So when a developer is coming in and applying for a permit, we sit down with them, provide some guidance about things they should be looking for as part of their development. One of the things is the requirement for the transportation impact fee. So at that time, kind of in that early phase, we'll do an early assessment to give them a rough idea of kind of an estimate about what they would, based on the type of development, the types of trips that they're generating, what their impact fee would be, what we would assess them. We actually collect that when we finally go to issue the permit. So, and when we issue the permit, we use the rate at that time. So if a developer comes in 2025, we might give them an estimate. That impact fee could be adjusted in beginning of 2026. So if their permit wasn't issued until 2026, it would be based off that new rate. When we do that, they can get credit for part of their development. So we can credit an applicant based on like land that they need to dedicate for their development, improvements that they might need to do, or construction for, part of the construction of their project. So, all right. So the types of projects we're looking at, we're kind of doing a little bit of a shift. So in the past, I think they were very vehicle oriented, focused, but we're really trying to move more towards a multimodal type system in our facilities in the city. So the first project is kind of a safety project, but also a capacity project, which is 220th and 58th. That intersection, it's currently an all-way stop, and we're looking at changing out the traffic control to either a traffic signal, a full signal, or a roundabout. So still want to do a little bit of modeling on that to see kind of what works, what operationally works better. A key is going to be how that impacts kind of the access to the I-5 ramp. So the second project is 236th and 58th, and we're looking at not a roundabout there, but just a signal there, kind of facilitate movements for 58th to actually access 236th. The next project, number 3, is Van Ryn Boulevard bike lanes. We currently have bike lanes on Van Rye that go from 236 past the tracks development, but then they kind of stop. And so this project would pick up that work and carry those bike lanes from kind of that existing terminus to all the way to 244th. The next project, 56th Avenue West striped bike lanes. This is from 220th to 2, sorry, now I'm just having to get my mind set on this. Striped bike lanes. Oh, that's right, yeah. This is, currently we have kind of a makeshift pedestrian sidewalk along 56 from, I'm getting this wrong. Oh, so this is actually, no, this is 56 from 230 to 220. This is the continuation of like, we're looking to do bike lanes and improvements as part of the Main Street project, which would have bike lanes. This would carry those bike lanes north of the Main Street project all the way up to 220th. Project number 5 is 228th Street Greenway and Bikeway Boulevard. That's just connecting 56 and 53rd. It's, boy, we're looking to create a link, like a bike link from 48th to 52nd. That's the project's up kind of in the center. As bikes are coming down, we're looking at having a connection through the park, just a bike pedestrian connection through the park. So the project on the 228th would then link to 56 to that system. I can explain it more afterwards if anyone's got some questions. I didn't explain that very well, so I apologize. Project 6 is the Main Street revitalization project, which I think most of you kind of know about, but we can talk about that. 56 buffered bike lanes from 236 to 244th. That's one I started to talk about before. Currently, there's like a makeshift sidewalk. It was a wide roadway, and we put in some C-curb, some curbing, and some landscaping with space for pedestrians on the backside. Oh, what am I on? Oh, thank you. So this is just carrying the buffered bike lanes from 236 there again, all the way to 244th Street, trying to get complete that north-south connection along 56th. 221st and 222nd Greenway, that's the connection that's kind of up in the kind of upper right. That's a set of one-way, it's kind of a one-way couplet, but we're looking at trying to develop a connection, a bike connection that crosses the green belt there. And so there aren't very many street connections. This would be a potential for either bike lanes or like a shared use type facility along that couplet. Project 12 is the 44th Avenue Road Diet. That's from 212th to 228th. That's really just extending the existing bike lanes that are currently on 44th that end at about 226, taking that same cross-section or similar cross-section and extending that all the way to 212th, so we have a continuous bike facility from 212th all the way to 244th. So those are the projects that we kind of initially identified. As Rich had mentioned, love to get additional feedback from you if there's projects you think should be on this list, or if you have any thoughts about the ones we've talked about. And so after we're done with the presentation, I'll be back there if you want to chat a little bit more. I'd be happy to talk with you. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Chitra. So now I'm going to dive into what's changed with our Main Street Phase 2 project. So our Main Street Phase 2 project, for the last 3 years, our scope has been to rebuild the roadway from 236th up past 230th with connections on 232nd and on 234th over to 58th. Unfortunately, we haven't been successful yet in securing federal funds. Federal funding right now is pretty tenuous, so we are looking at state funds instead of federal funds. And one of the programs that we applied for just a couple weeks ago is called the Urban Arterial Grant Program. So the state has a grant program that'll focus on rebuilding arterial roadways. So by going after that grant and adding that grant, if we're successful, to some existing congressional funding that we've already got, we figure that we have enough money to build 56th only from 236th up to 232nd. So we're going to focus our energies at this time to just that 4-block area. And but as part of our traffic impact fees, we are still looking for the funding to go from 232nd up north of 230th. So on one hand, we're still moving forward with right-of-way acquisition where it's practical to get the additional right-of-way that we need north of 232nd. But we're focusing our efforts both to complete our right-of-way and on 56th, so between 232nd and 236. We think we have a good opportunity to get this funding, but nothing is for sure. So we find out in November whether we're successful or not with that. The Main Street project, as part of our revising the scope, we've had to eliminate new traffic signals at 234th and 230th from our scope. It doesn't mean they're not planned, or they are planned, they're just not going to be built with this next phase of the project. We had also tried to plan rebuilding the signal at, or building a new signal at 58th and 236. That's one of the projects on our TIF list, but we had to remove that from our scope too. So we're only focused on 56. What we're still doing is we're still looking to rebuild the curb and gutter on both sides of the street between 232nd and 234th. We're looking to rebuild the sidewalks on both sides of the street between 232nd and 234th on both sides. Between 234th and 236, we're focused on the west side only. And part of the reason for that is that we evaluated how much money we had to spend, and we can build a pedestrian accessible route that connects to the light rail station along one side of 56, but we didn't have enough to do both sides. And if we did try to do the east side between 234th and 236th, then we wouldn't have enough money to rebuild the intersection of 232nd. From a civil engineering standpoint, one of my colleagues pointed out that it's a lot more complicated to rebuild an intersection than it is in the middle of the block. So we're going to try to focus on rebuilding the intersections and then see if we can get the middle of the block built by developers. And that's mostly why we're not including additional improvements on the east side of 56 down by Atlas in this next phase. So, but by doing the intersections, we've solved a lot of, transition issues, and it'll make it a lot more attractive for developers to be able to tie into a system that's already built out. So just to recap some of the other elements that we're still including, our sidewalks, we're not building an amenity zone or a planting strip, as a lot of people call it. We're going to have an amenity zone, but it'll be paved with tree pits. This gives us a place to locate junction boxes, things that could be an impediment to pedestrians and such, fire hydrants, benches, all that. We can put that in the space between the curb and the sidewalk, and have a clear path for pedestrians behind that. So we're looking to do that in our town center design. We're upgrading the lighting, we're upgrading the storm drainage. You know, again, our goal is to provide an ADA accessible route from 232nd down to 236, which is already, 236 to the light rail station is already meets our ADA criteria. So we really want to have a route that's available for all of our residents there. We're also looking to provide the infrastructure for undergrounding of utilities. We're providing the infrastructure for undergrounding our utilities, and we're still working with our utility providers to you know, fill those, but at this point, we're just putting in the infrastructure. You know, the city's not going to be able to pay for a utility to put its own equipment underground for us. And then the last part of it is the traffic signal, the existing traffic signal at 232nd. We're going to update that to meet some of the latest traffic signal controllers that has a lot more flexibility to be responsive to traffic and such. We're trying to meet our complete street goals in the intent of our complete street goals per our complete street ordinance. And so I've listed here some of the different elements that we're trying to combine into this project so that we only have to open the pavement one time. So that's why you see us, we're going to provide for undergrounding of wires. We're putting in the conduit and some of the vaults and stuff that can be filled later without having to tear up the sidewalk. We're putting in an upsized water line, actually all the way up to 230th still, and relining the sewer so that they'll last much longer. I have the updated traffic signal and the curb ramps. We are looking at wider sidewalks with our project, and then with development, there'll be even additional sidewalk width provided by the developer. The town center vision is to actually have a 5-foot wide amenity zone and a 10-foot wide clear path for a sidewalk. We're building the first 5 feet of amenity and 5 feet of sidewalk, and then the developers would be expected to provide the rest in front of their stores. Again, the bike lanes, we're going to have class 2 bike lanes in that section, and then a continuous striped center turn lane. Right now, I think there's just turn pockets, and so you weave back and forth. This is 56 is our truck route, and there's as we anticipate our traffic growth on that roadway, we're trying to make it as efficient as possible, so by extending the center turn lane, we have room to operate the intersections more efficiently, and it somewhat provides makes it easier for pedestrians to try to cross the street at intersections, because you really only end up crossing one lane at a time. And we are still planning on putting in, instead of a traffic signal at 234th, we're looking to install a rectangular rapid flashing beacon system where you push the button and it makes the lights flash. We're putting in again, the infrastructure for an eventual traffic signal, but we're going to start off with just the flashing beacons until we get to the point where we need something, a higher level of control. So that is the main part of our update. And so now I would love to tackle any questions that people have. So the question is when during construction, will the contractor be closing sidewalks on both sides of the street at the same time? The answer is we can't direct how they do their work, but we can require pedestrian access be maintained on at least one side, if not both, during construction. The contractor will have to submit traffic control plans, and the traffic control plans will be reviewed by John. And one of the critical components of the traffic control plans is how pedestrians get through the area when it's under construction. And it's not just so much as a pedestrian path, but it has to be an ADA accessible pedestrian path, so it's available for all users. So the answer is yes, they will have to provide some access through there. Any other questions? Is there anything online, Sienna? I'm trying to think of what else I can explain. Do you want to talk about any of the other projects besides Main Street? Let me talk a little bit more about Main Street because that's my forte. But our schedule with Main Street, we are anticipating or hopefully anticipating getting our grant in November. And so as part of that, we are proceeding assuming that we will get it, which means that we've been attempting to acquire the right-of-way that we need along that route so that we can certify that we've correctly acquired right-of-way for the project. And last year we were thinking that we were going to be successful in our grant, but when we didn't get the grant from the federal government, we slowed down our negotiations, or I can't really say slowed down. We actually, it gave us more time to continue negotiations, trying to get to the point where we could reach a deal. We still have a few properties that we haven't reached a deal with, so we are going to have to accelerate our acquisition efforts to try to wrap things up by the end of this year. So we are trying to actively finish the right-of-way acquisition that we need for the reduced scope, and we are our schedule for getting the final set of plans is going to be at the end of September. So if anybody wants to see our 100% plans, they should be available by the end of September. And we are hoping that if we can wrap up our right-of-way acquisition, that we'll be able to advertise this project for construction in the first quarter of next year and go to construction by next summer. So that's our current plan schedule. You know, yes, it's contingent on getting the last grant in place, but this is the last grant in order to build this project. So it seems like a lot of the grant agencies want to be the last ones in. So I think we've reached that. So that's our current schedule for the Main Street project. Oh, we have another question. So the question is, the sidewalk in front of the old Rogers Market, will that be paid for by the developer? I'm going to say yes and no. As we discussed with our traffic impact fees, any elements of a project that are on our traffic impact fee list, the capacity improvements, we can reimburse the developer for the cost of making those improvements. So Main Street has been one of our traffic impact fee projects for a number of years. And so we've been working with that developer to figure out what would be an appropriate reimbursement for cost should he start his project before us. He would be eligible for any widening of the sidewalks. He's actually widening the roadway a little bit with a curb and gutter, so that's all capacity related. And then because we're trying to provide the infrastructure for some undergrounding of utilities, which would hopefully reduce the number of poles in the area. We're looking at reimbursement for any of the underground conduits and vaults that need to be put in. So we would reimburse him for some of it, and we're still looking to buy portions of the right-of-way that we need for our project. And then the rest of it is part of his requirements for developing the sidewalk and frontage around the rest of his development.
So when he does his development for Main Street, it's going to end up going past 232nd,
At someday, yes. Yeah, someday, yes. We're proposing to build the intersection of 232nd. It depends on whether his project gets built before our project or not. If we get our funding, and that's the big caveat, if we don't get the funding, then we're not going to be able to do the work. But if we get the funding, we're proposing to rebuild the intersection of 232nd so that he won't have to. But we would stop at 232nd. So the rest of the frontage, we don't have the funds to continue building north of that at this time. Yes.
So, yeah, if there was a sidewalk in front of Rogers, then that would go clear up to 230.
Exactly. Okay. I think Kirk has a question. So the question is what's the likelihood of us obtaining our grant when we're notified in November? Okay. Okay, so we have applied for a Transportation Improvement Board grant. Their acronym is TIB. One of their urban arterial program grants. It's with the state of Washington. Yep. And I can't really put a percentage on our chances of getting a grant. We've submitted our application. We feel good about it. We think we have a strong project. We've applied for TIB grant funding in the past, but because of delays that we experienced due to COVID and a couple of years ago, just trying to rebuild our whole program here, we couldn't use those funds before they expired. So we've worked with TIB closely to, keep them in the loop about our efforts to, get this project across the finish line. And so we're hopeful that we get the funds in November, but I can't give it a 50-50 or a 25-75. I can't do that. I can just say that we have submitted our application, so you have to have your application in there before you can be considered. Your intersection or your question was, if we don't get the TIB grant in November, then we would not be able to fund the rebuild of the intersection of 232nd. That's correct. Uh, it only affects that intersection, I believe so. Is there any factor that puts the TIB grant funding at risk? I don't know that there's any factors that make the obtaining that grant any more risky than others, but we've already got some grants in hand. And so we are supplementing the existing grants that we have with some of our utility fund improvements to make a package that we think can get us up to 232nd. And if we get the rest of the TIB grant, then we'll be able to fund through 232nd. Are there any other questions? Sienna, is there anything online yet? Okay. Well, oh, I see a hand. That's a great question. The question is if I'll restate it, is how did we decide which projects to put into our project list to calculate the traffic impact fee? Is that? Yeah. So I'll take a shot at it, and maybe John knows some more too, but we took the list that was of projects that we used back in 2016. And we reviewed that list, and some of those projects had either been built or the conditions had changed that we didn't need it anymore. Using the projects that were still needed, we kept those projects on our list. But because this is the first time we've added the multimodal component to our traffic impact fee evaluation, we went through and looked at our proposed bike routes and sidewalk connections in the city, trying to find where we were had some gaps. And so some of our bike routes were on roadways that needed some rebuilding. So we would be rebuilding the roadway as part of the sidewalk project or the bike lane project. We identified 44th, for example, north of 228th. It's a 4-lane roadway, and part of it has a center turn lane. So but when you have multiple lanes like that, you can end up with faster traffic. You can end up with more difficult to cross for pedestrians. You get the, what do you call a multiple lane effect. When one car stops and the second car doesn't, it blocks the visibility of pedestrians. So we looked at that section of roadway, and by analyzing the characteristics of the speeds and the operation of the roadway, we're proposing what we call a road diet, where you take the road from 2 lanes each direction to 1 lane each direction with a center turn lane. And then also extend the bike lanes from 228th all the way up to 212th. So it's a project that's been done several places around the area. And John and I both have lots of experience with before and after effects of a road diet, and the safety benefits, in our opinion, is very dramatic. And so we are proposing both a resurfacing project, which would provide more accessible pedestrian routes, curb ramps, and with the restriping of that, we'll be able to add the bike lane connection all the way up to 212th. So that's one of our projects. And then we were also looking at 48th where, as John explained, there was kind of a quasi sidewalk there. There's some extruded curb and just to kind of take up part of the width of the road, but there isn't, the sidewalks are in the road, or the street trees are in the road. There isn't a good place for a sidewalk. So we're proposing a project to rebuild that like it would normally look, with a sidewalk, street trees in the sidewalk, and bike lanes. So those are a couple of the projects we put on the list. There's a few others that John identified in there, but we tried to look at our proposed bike route map and figure out where the missing links are, or the gaps, or which areas were difficult to ride on. Our goal is to have a bicycle network system that fits all ages and abilities. That's the only way we're really going to be able to continue to grow in the city, because we're not going to get a lot more parking available, and we're not building new roads. So we're trying to maximize our efficiency with the network that we have. Good question. We have another question here.
I hope the city learned a lesson about during the parade when they closed 56 down, and the intersection of 58 to 236 was backed up for hours. It was just a complete nightmare. So yeah, without a light down there, the construction is really going to cause problems.
Yeah, so the question is, or the comment is did the city, hope the city learned a lesson that when we close 56, that there's traffic problems at 236 and 58th.
Yeah,
Because there's no light. And I know that there are times when there's not a parade that traffic will back up past that intersection. And so that's one of the reasons we were wanting to include a signal there with our previous project proposal. We still want to pursue funding to get a traffic signal built there, and we have a plan for it now. We've got a design for it. It's just we're just trying to find the funds to build that. So it is on our list of projects that we want to do, and that's why it's on our traffic impact fee list, because the traffic impact fees can be used to put that traffic signal in there. So.
Yeah, well, they already did the infrastructure for it and everything. Can't be that much more.
Right. There's a few changes that we've had to, that we're proposing to make, but yeah, they did put in conduits and tried to plan ahead for a eventual traffic signal with phase 1 of Main Street. We have another question. It can slow up the vehicles, because when you have 2 lanes in one direction, you know, you have some people that are going faster in one lane than the other. And when you have 1 lane each direction, the slowest vehicle kind of sets the pace. So in some ways you can have a little more congestion, but I did a lot of analysis on 15th Avenue Northeast in Shoreline. I looked at when that road used to be a 4-lane roadway south of North City back in 2003. And then when I did a road diet for the city of Shoreline there, I studied the before and after. And the vehicle speeds, they went down a couple miles an hour, but the biggest factor that I noticed was that the severity of accidents dropped 33%. And so, and one of the concerns at that time is that people would divert onto parallel north-south roadways. And so I did really comprehensive data collection and checked the data on both of the parallel roadways around there, and I did not see the diversion that everybody was worried about. Because I think in the end, even though people were going a little slower, it was still faster to stay on 15th. But from a pedestrian safety standpoint, it really made a big difference. And so that was one of the takeaways that I got from that specific project. And I've done that in some other areas too. So, any other questions? And nothing online? All right. Well, I think I'm going to wrap up my question and answer period, and we're going to be stationed at some of the boards that are around. If people have more questions, we're happy to answer them. We've got a board there for any comments or suggested projects in the middle there that we're happy to consider those also. We want to try and finalize our list of projects in about another week or two. Yeah, if we can finalize our list of projects in the next week or two, we want to get our process for the traffic impact fee calculation finalized so that we can propose that to the city council and then explain how we got to where we are to them. So I want to thank everybody for showing up and anybody who's listening in online. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email us or you can contact us anytime. So thank you very much. My hero.